All right. Well, hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here today with an online author friend of mine, Jennifer Hallmark. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. Glad to have you with us today. And we're just going to chat today about your writing and your podcast that you've just started and learn a little bit about you and what you have to offer. I know you really seek to offer hope. And since that's what my
Yes.
blog and my focus is all about, I'm really excited to have you here today. So I'm going to just give you the floor and let you introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, a little bit about yourself, and then you can go from there and let us know about your writing journey and kind of what that's led you to now.
Well, thank you. And I'm Jennifer Hallmark. I'm an author and a blogger and have just started becoming a podcaster. That's my newest venture.
Yeah.
In 2006, I went to a writing class. I decided to take one. I sat in the back. I figured everyone there knew what they were doing except me. I didn't, I was just terrified. These 8 other ladies, they sat in front of me. They just totally intimidated me, but it didn't take me but a few minutes into the class to figure out that no one there knew what they were doing. So
Yeah.
I felt a lot better. We became a group. We've actually been meeting since 2006 monthly.
That's awesome.
That came Lawrence County Writers Guild. So it all started back then. It's been a long journey. I spent a lot of it not knowing what I was doing.
Mhm.
And when I started joining some bigger writers groups and things, I really started studying the craft and getting a web presence and working on some marketing, and just been a fun, wild ride the whole time.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your journey to publication and how that came about for you.
Well, in our writing group, our small writing group, we always did writing prompts. That was just a fun thing. At the end of each meeting, we would just all think up prompts, tear up little pieces of paper, write the prompts in them, pass them out. And in one of the meetings it was in 2009, I had 3 prompts. It was coveralls, old coveralls, a faded baseball cap, and a wedding dress designer. And I thought, well, that's really different. So I went home and I started writing. And I wrote this story about a grandfather who had a granddaughter who was in a wheelchair, and he wanted to help her to get a wedding dress. And it seemed like a lot of obstacles were in his way to get that for
Mhm.
her. And a lot of people liked it. And I thought, now this is kind of fun. So I was also writing some other things and doing a lot of blogging and stuff. So I wrote a longer short story with it and still got some good feedback. So I wrote a novella and finally just sat down and wrote the full novel. I did NaNoWriMo one year, the National Novel Writing Month, where I took the longer short story and wrote 50,000 words of it in the month.
Mhm.
From there, I did some editing. I went to the Blue Lake Writers Retreat and met Eva Marie Everson. I pitched my story to her. That was in 2015.
Okay.
She liked it and she wanted to work with me some, but she said it was pretty raw still.
Mhm.
So over the next couple years, she helped me different times. I would resubmit things to her. And in 2017, in October, I went to the uh, Blue Ridge Mountain Writers Conference and met her there, and she told me that they wanted to buy the book. So, and then it came out in June of 2019.
Yeah, so that's exciting.
Yes.
Really exciting. I know I featured you in your book on my Hope Hunt that I did
Yes, I
in,
appreciate that.
was it 2020? Was it? Yeah, it was 2020.
Hmm.
Gosh, it seems like so long ago.
It does. My novel was only out 6 months, basically, when the pandemic hit, and
Wow.
yeah,
Kind of
it
slowed
just
things
changed
down.
things totally. Hmm.
Yeah. So tell me what's been happening since you've published Jesse's Hope.
Well, I've kept writing. I wrote a lot last year since I was home a lot last year. I wrote the sequel to it that I'm tentatively titling Angeline's Dream. I've been going through a lot of coaching last year too, because I just felt like I needed to do some more with my craft work and my marketing and things. And I've really decided I've written a lot of short stories and things that were in the speculative genre, which are speculative to me is books that are just a little off the beaten track. I like to think of like the Shaggy Dog, the
Mm-hmm.
Disney movie, where everything was normal except the fact that the guy turned into a dog, you know. But you know, things that are just a little bit different. And so I have worked and written a new novel in what I call Southern speculative, which is a story that takes place in 78 of a 12-year-old boy. And it's pretty normal, but then there's some different things that happens to him that make things a little bit different.
Can you share anything about it without spoilers?
Well, I'm using the analogy of Back to the Future meets Disney's The Kid. It
Okay.
kind of has elements of both of those movies. A lot of people haven't seen The Kid, but it's a Bruce Willis movie.
Okay.
And it kind of has some little elements of time travel. And uh, Reed Anderson, he is trying to fit in when his father passes away suddenly. And they have to move from Louisiana to Alabama. And he goes through a lot of different things, kind of a coming of age story.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
yeah,
is this for what age group are you targeting with this?
I'm targeting young adult because the story actually starts when Reed is 17 and then it ends up with him at 17. So
Okay.
he's thinking back to the summer he turned 12 and how that changed his life. So yeah,
And you've completed that and it's being
yes.
shot or
It's I'm working on the proposal right now.
okay.
So I get to my agent. She's going to start. I've told her I'm just about there. I'm within weeks of having it to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes,
that's exciting in the
it
process. And
is.
what about the sequel to Jesse's Hope? Are you doing anything with that at this point?
It's still being shopped right now. We haven't found a place. Publishing has just been really slow
Mm-hmm.
through 2020, which, you know, uh,
Yeah.
so many people are just not taking things right now.
Right.
But we're still shopping it. And, you know, I'm just kind of waiting to see what God wants to do with it. I figure there's somewhere for it, some out there, you know.
Yeah, he's got the right place at the right time.
Hmm.
It's
He
not always
does.
our time.
I just keep writing. Yes.
Yep, just keep writing.
Hmm.
So, tell us a little bit about your new venture into podcasting and how that all came about and what the focus of your podcast is, in case some of our viewers and listeners here are interested in that.
Okay. The podcasting came about when I started doing some coaching with James L. Rubart. I was doing, he does consultations and uh, a lot of classes, online classes, and different things. And I had done some coaching because I really felt like I was stuck. I was doing a lot of writing coaching myself, and I was trying to do the fiction writing and blogging. And I had just reached a point where I was doing nothing beyond, I just felt stuck, really stuck. And I talked to him a lot and did different questionnaires and things, and we did a lot of talking. And so I went ahead and laid down my writing coaching for now because I figured out I really want to focus more on the novel writing and kind of pushing in that direction. He, as we got along, I got unstuck from my novel that I was writing and finished it. And I found out I did have more time. I thought, okay, now what do I want to do with my blogging? Because blogging is something I enjoy doing.
Mhm.
And he suggested podcasting. I have been listening to a lot of podcasts over the last 2 years anyway. And I thought, well, that would be a good way I could, you know, do something to reach out, have a bigger audience. And instead of blogging each week, I can just load my podcast and share it each week and have that. And then, well, we still do Friday fiction on my blog at jenniferhallmark.com, where we share books from off the beaten track. And it's me and a group of ladies, and we have a lot of fun with that. But I just wanted to do something to reach out beyond writers, maybe. And I've always had a heart for women and have done a lot of women's ministry in the past and ministering to Christian women. And and well, women of all types, but I've had a lot of open doors in the local community
Right.
to do some with Christian women. But as far as being a speaker and things, it's just never worked out for me. And the podcasting door, my writing coach recommended maybe I could try that. I had tried YouTube already, and it was just a lot, and my glasses glared. So it drove me crazy, and I thought, well, there's got to be something better I can do that's less technical. And so I thought I'll just podcast, and it wasn't less technical. But I didn't have to edit my video anyway. I was able to I can work on my audio. It's much easier to edit audio and to set it up. And after several months of a lot of trial and error and pain and suffering and toil, I launched Determined to Dance, the podcast, on Tuesday. And I think now it's in Apple and Spotify and Google, and I think it's even in Android. Some of the different, I'm still getting, it's still a work in progress. But it is a podcast it's 6 to 8 minutes long. 2 ladies, it's specifically to bring hope and encouragement and to really surrender to the will of God. Instead of trying to keep all the rules and regulations and to march in line, it's more like God saying, I want you to come dance with me. Let me lead, and you follow, and you relax and just enjoy. And I thought, oh, I'm much better at marching, Yeah. But so I'm trying to learn to dance.
And marching to the beat of our own drum.
That's very true. Yes. And
I love that picture of just dancing with the Lord and letting him lead and just following wherever he takes us. That's a beautiful picture.
Thank you.
And I think that's needed, very needed in our world today with everything that's been going on. And
yes,
we need that encouragement and that hope. So I wish you the best with that. I listened to the first podcast. I just want to let everybody know who's watching this. And it was very well done. Professional. It sounds like you've been doing it for years. So I congratulate you on a great start to that. And I wish you the best with that.
Yes.
Success with that.
I appreciate it. Now I'm just having to tell myself that I can do this. Because you get that thing of, okay, I've got to have one up next Tuesday. And I meant to have like 4 done before I ever started. That was my plan.
Yeah.
Did not work, but maybe at some point I'll get ahead.
Even with blogging too. And if you're putting weekly content up there, I mean, it's a constant, before I switched over to doing these author interviews on my blog, I was, racking my brain, like what can I write about this week? And what do people need to hear? And, and it's a lot when you're trying to write novels also, and you're still trying to learn the craft and figure out how to write those novels in an effective way. It can be overwhelming. I don't think people out there outside of the writing publishing world really understand all that an author puts into their novels and learning the craft and all the classes and the editing and critiquing and training. There's so much behind the scenes. So I know for one, I have really grown in my appreciation for authors who put out great content for us to enjoy, to be entertained, those who point to Christ. And I know that you've talked about hope. Tell me a little bit about how you incorporate Christ and hope into your books that you write.
Well, the biggest thing I do is I try to write the story. And when I write the story, I usually get an idea, maybe some prompts, and then I start like daydreaming my story. I'll lay in bed at night or when I first get up in the morning, and I'll just think about different scenes because it comes to me in scenes. I don't write linearly, if that's a word. I write in scenes, and I usually get the ending first, and I write the ending, and then I work my way up. I try to totally tell the story. I don't try to think about putting lessons in or positives or even God or anything. I just try to write the story, which
Mhm.
is harder than you'd think,
Mhm.
because there's that little part of you that says, oh, this would be a good place to point out something to my reader, you know. But
Mhm.
I hate novels like that.
Mm.
I don't want to be preached to in a novel.
Feels forced.
Yes, that part of it, yes. So I try to really just write it, and then usually as I go back and start editing, little places will jump up where I'm like, oh, well, that's a good lesson right there. And it's almost like subconsciously. And
Mhm.
I just kind of feel like God and me write together. And sometimes I'll write a line and I'll say, oh, that's great. I'll high five him, you know. And I'm like, yes, we did that. That's a great line, you know.
Yeah,
So,
because it's definitely a joint venture with God.
yes.
Yes, he has all the
So
creativity and just blesses us with a little bit of it.
I guess I try to just also write just the Christian worldview for most of it. Now, in my latest novel, the child is not saved at that moment. So I'm trying to not write from that. But in Jessie's Hope here, which you can see here in the background, uh,
Mhm.
I just wrote that like she was the normal girl that grew up, uh, in church, in a Southern church, and with some of the different things. Angeline did not. She's the different character in the book. And I try to write how I feel both of them would relate. I've done a lot of interviews, lots of research, uh, both ways. A
Mhm.
lot of course, Jessie I could take from my own life. I feel like I probably most relate to Homer, the grandfather,
Mhm.
because I really felt like personality-wise, we have the same personality. So I really dug deep into his character. Uh,
Mhm.
Maybe that answers your question.
So you mentioned uh, being like that character. Are any of the stories that you write based on your own personal experience or any history personally or someone you know?
I think probably most everything I write comes out of something I've done, somewhere I've been. It's never in Jesse's Hope. The My father was in a wheelchair most of his life. I don't ever remember him walking since
Mhm.
I was very young. So I was, I that was part of my everyday life, was to help my dad out, and he was not. He was, because it was an illness, something like muscular dystrophy. He wasn't in. Jesse is very active, like a lot of people that are paralyzed in a car wreck can be very active, but my dad wasn't. But I was able to pull from that experience in my story that I'm writing, My New Speculative. The main character has had a lot of upheaval in his life, and I went through a lot of that with my dad being so sick. So
Mhm.
I felt like I was really able to put my emotion from that time into the book itself.
Mhm. So we talked about lessons that we put in books for readers. Well, what did God teach you through writing Jesse's Hope or any of your other stories?
Jesse's Hope, the lesson everywhere was forgiveness.
Mm.
I didn't plan it, but everyone in the book just about either they have a chance to be redeemed, to forgive. Some of the characters do, and some of them don't. And I think as I was writing it, I had several instances, as most people do in life, to be bitter against different people in different situations that happened. And I kept reminding myself, okay, you're writing about forgiveness for people, so
Yeah, who do you
you've
need to
got to do
forgive?
it.
Yeah, who do you need to forgive?
Yes,
And you're thinking about those
yes.
people while you're writing it.
hmm I definitely love to take my villain in my books and think of a person in real life
Mm.
and put that. It seems to be a way that they'll never know that, yes, you are the villain in my book. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what does a typical day look like for you with your writing and how much time you're able to spend with that?
Well, with me, it's different. My husband works 12-hour swing shifts. So I could have where I work in the morning, or I could work from 5 to 10 at night, depending how
Right.
he's
Uh-huh.
working and
Yeah.
or how I'm babysitting grandkids.
Mm.
So when I do write, I try to go to my desktop and stay in here, stay off my laptop, off my phone. Sometimes I just write on the computer. Sometimes I will sit down with a notebook and write if I'm having maybe a hard time for some reason.
Mhm.
I usually take Mondays to do a lot of email answering and just kind of setting my week up.
Mhm.
Toward the closer, probably Wednesday and Thursday is when I'm going to finish my podcast for each week and have it set up. And then maybe Tuesdays and Fridays will probably be my biggest writing days. Right now, I'm letting my story sit before, and I'm doing some editing and some online editing critique groups.
Mhm.
So my story is kind of sitting right now. So I'm not actually writing anything new at the moment, but I have several ideas, and I'm probably going to pull up one in particular and start it next.
Yeah, that's what I was just getting ready to ask as we wrap this up.
Yes.
What is next for
Okay.
you?
I have a really interesting speculative story that it came from writing prompts in a short story probably 15 years ago that has always stuck with me. And I want to see, it is going to look at religion in the South. It'll probably be definitely, it's kind of a more suspenseful than anything I've written. And I think it will, I'm just excited about it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's going to be super Southern, as all my books are.
Yeah.
But I love the suspense element in this one that is going to ratchet it up a little. And I know most people like suspense, so I'm excited about it. I've probably got 4,000 words written already.
Okay.
Where I've been writing notes everywhere. I write little notes and put them in files to go back to of scenes that I know I want to put in the book. So yeah.
Well, since I'm originally from Georgia, and I spent a lot of time in Alabama too with my neighbor's family. They lived in Alabama, and I love suspense. So sounds good to me.
Good. I appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, I've enjoyed getting to know you a little bit. I've kind of felt like I knew you a little bit before, but
Right.
good to meet you face to face, virtually. And I also want to thank you for offering a giveaway for someone who comments on this post of Jessie's Hope.
Yes, I have a paperback copy for that.
Jennifer's going to give away a paperback to one of you who comment on this post.
Just like this one right here.
Yes, and I've read the Jessie's Hope, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining with me, Jennifer, and I look forward to hearing your podcast and seeing what you have coming next.
All right. I appreciate it.
I pray God's blessings on you.